Hello YouTubers, in this video I'm going to give you some pointers on how to troubleshoot your game server if you ever decide to host one. Being a network administrator, I had a good advantage insofar as being able to set up my server software and equipment to host a game server. However, knowing how to do it and actually doing it are two different things. This will cover some of the finer details that most guides out there don't elaborate on. Now first off, there are multiple different types of servers that you can get for any one game. Minecraft, for example, I believe it would be best described that there are two different categories of which servers are provided. Now obviously there are plenty of different mods out there, but it all gets distilled into one of two types. Mojang's vanilla server, for example, it allows you to edit things on a per file basis. For example, there are two important files here, the server properties file and the whitelist.txt file. Server properties basically allows you to configure your Minecraft server so that it works in a particular way. For example, world type, whether or not you want to work in a certain game mode, being able to fly, whether or not certain entities will spawn at random. And whitelist is basically, if you're registered with Mojang, then your name is automatically in their list of registered users, and that can be referred to when someone is creating a list of individuals who can connect to their server. It's a easy security method, and if someone does something that someone doesn't like, they can easily be banned and such. The other type is a web GUI, which is what McMyAdmin is based off of. And this is what it basically looks like. You have the index over here, all the things that you can do with your McMyAdmin software. Server status, console. This is command line based, however, it makes it so that you can enter in a command and the system will automatically do whatever it needs to do. Users and groups, a more GUI based whitelist, and configuration, the settings that you want to have for your game, server settings, world settings, and such. Now there is the possibility that with McMyAdmin, just because you have the ability to adjust settings in there does not mean that you can adjust all the settings. For example, I have read quite a bit, and a lot of it is saying that, like for example, the server port number, if it's being occupied on the router, which it's highly unlikely considering that most home routers will only need the one port for connecting from the internal LAN to the external WAN, or for like using mail or FTP, the ports are not really going to be occupied all that much. However, it's still here for you to use in case you need to use it. Now when it comes to the router, the one thing that's important is that you recognize the fact you will be dealing with a firewall. As such, you will need to forward these ports. Now, for this router, everything is labeled as a computer name. These are all basically computers that have been on our network in one form or another. Not necessarily all desktop or laptop or such, but they're all here identified as the name that they were given when Windows or whatever was installed. Now when I saw this, it got me thinking, if it allows for forwarding ports with a certain computer name, then it should be good enough to host a game or such. So, for example, I created a test port to see how well it would work. And here's what I basically did. Here it is, name of it. the port range. I selected ports 14 through 16 to give a little elbow room. Selected TCP, that's the most commonly used, and then was ready to use. However, when I did that with my game server, it didn't exactly open up the ports. I tried many different things to try to get it to open up, but nothing I did seemed to work. I even asked some professionals online and even gave out as much information as I could, and they couldn't give me an easy answer. But the thing is that I was trying so hard to get it to work like this that it never occurred to me to get it to work like this, using the static IP I assigned to the server. So, in a last-ditch effort, I assigned the port numbers to the static IP to see if that would open it up. One thing particularly I did notice, though, was that when I was looking at this part, it was showing the outside IP right up here, while the rest of these were remaining blank. But then, when I started using the static IP, all these suddenly opened up. So, I don't know what your particular router is. However, just because it shows a computer name in the list of computers that you can assign a port to does not necessarily mean that it will forward that port to that computer, and as such opening up the port to the public. As such, I advise you try both ways to make sure that one or the other will work. That is, if you decide not to have a static IP, which I highly discourage just because a static IP is much more long-term. Now, obviously there is the possibility that there are routers out there that will have a set of IPs that they will dynamically send out to computers, and that will change anywhere from 24 hours to 48 hours, or even longer than that. But for those of us that have a ranged router, which is a router that will use only a certain range of IP addresses, ours, for example, does it from 60 to 254, and then everything behind that is unoccupied, which means that if there's any static devices or devices requiring a static address, then there's all those IPs that you can use. Anyways, once I did that, all these ports opened up and the game suddenly started getting recognized on the... Well, I went to a website that allowed for port checking, and it showed the website, the game as being open to the public. And lastly, I did a test with TeamSpeak to see whether or not someone from another state could do it. And with the help of a friend I know, he connected to my computer at the public address I gave him, and IP port number, which in this case it was 9987, and he was able to connect directly to my computer. So there you go. Hopefully this little bit of information about what I've had to deal with in terms of hosting a game on our router will help you in case you decide to host your own server.